So you mentioned earlier you've played in every theatre in the country virtually. You've toured.
There's always an exception. I was asked. It was suggested I do pantomime in. I'm not doing it as it turns out, but in Hastings, and I've never played there. So there's always a new theatre. And I went to a theatre last week in Shepton Mallet, or Shepton Mallet, as they call it there. And I haven't played there either. So there's always a new one, but gosh, I've done most of them.
One of the busiest actors
well, I'm busy.
You've done. You've toured in. She Stoops to Conquer. You've done.
I've just finished doing She Stoops to Conquer, which started in Birmingham at Birmingham Rep last October, and 2 weeks ago we finished doing it. We had a break over Christmas, and we've been doing it pretty much non-stop either side of Christmas.
Was that enjoyable?
Great production. I'm very proud of it actually. It was a good piece of work with a lot of very good, exciting young actors who I hadn't worked with before. Jonathan Broadbent and the other people whose names I've forgotten because they're so exciting. Matthew Burgess and the other Matthew, who's not called Burgess, and Dorothea Meyer Bennett, fantastic actors.
Now you mentioned War and Peace. Was that actually your first television?
No, my first telly was Roads to Freedom in 1969, I think, which was an adaptation of a very tricky book by Jean-Paul Sartre, with people like Michael Bryant and Daniel Massey. That was a great part. Wasn't a very sympathetic character, but and that led to a succession of those kind of characters. War and Peace came shortly after that, and funny enough, John Davis, who directed War and Peace, came to see me in She Stoops to Conquer when I was in Richmond a couple of weeks ago, which was quite nice after all these years.
And did that then lead on to your first big success, which would be The Brothers, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I suppose that the popular success was The Brothers.
Yeah.
A man called Ken Riddington had been the production manager on War and Peace, so I got to know him quite well. And he produced. He was the second producer on The Brothers, and by the time series 3 or 4 came along, he was producing it. And they had a small part of a banker, and he was a pompous and arrogant person. For some reason he thought of me, and asked me, it was only a small part, and asked me if I'd do it. And so I said yes, because I always believe in working. And as it turned out, they liked the character, and it got written up, and I, in a sense, became the driving character of the series. I was a kind of, well, I used to use the analogy of JR, but nobody knows who JR is anymore. I was the bad guy, the one that everyone loved to hate.
The most hated man in Britain, allegedly.
I was voted in 1975, I think, the most hated man in Britain by the readers of The Sun. There's a compliment for you.
You hear stories from soap stars, or soap stars if you prefer, but people who play...
I prefer soap stars.
Soap stars tend to do that. You hear stories of people believing they are the character and getting into all sorts of difficulties when they meet people in the streets and so on.
Yeah.
Did you ever have that sort of problem?
Yeah, I mean the worst thing is when actors believe they are the character themselves, which I certainly don't. I'm not one of those people that lives it. You stop paying me, I stop acting is my motto. But yes, I did meet people who found it quite tricky to differentiate between Colin Baker and Paul Merrinie. I got thumped a few times. I got belaboured with umbrellas by old ladies in supermarkets. You be nice to Edward Hammond, you pig, you. And I did get smacked in the face once by an irate motorist who was already in a bad mood because apparently I'd overtaken him, which is a crime I didn't know about. And pulled up beside me at traffic light, said, "Here, you're Paul Merrinie, aren't you?" And I went, "Yes." Bang! And knocked a tooth out. That was a compliment, I suppose, really. Not a very nice one, but it was.
It was nice to see the documentary that was shown earlier this year, the Cult of Sunday series that was on BBC.
Oh yeah.
I was interested, when you did that, did they interview you on your own for that, or were you with the former cast guys?
I can't remember.
You can't remember?
Did you watch it?
Yes, I did.
Well, was I on my own?
You were.
Then I was probably on my own.
What I'm asking is, I suppose what I'm getting at is, have you kept in contact with those people over the years?
I've kept in contact with someone. I've seen Kate O'Mara off and on over the years, of course, because of Doctor Who. Derek Benfield, who played Bill Riley, was a great friend, and we keep in touch. One or two of them are no longer with us. Richard Easton now lives in America. I keep him
Clarence is no longer with us. Clarence is no longer with us.
Yeah. And the youngest brother now lives in America, Robin. So that there aren't that many around, sadly.
And of course it was as a villain that you, sort of villain, that you first appeared in Doctor Who, wasn't it? In Arc of Infinity.
Well, Maxwell wasn't a villain, he was, you know...
A sort of villain.
No, he wasn't.
You shot the Doctor, like Clarence.
Yeah, but he was employed by the Time Lords villains. Yes, they are actually, aren't they? But it depends whether you... Well, in a sense, almost anyone other than the Doctor in Doctor Who is a villain. Almost anyone.
So how did that come back anyway, the Arc of Infinity?
That came about because my agent rang up and said, "You've been offered this smallish part in Doctor Who, but it fits in perfectly with this stage play you're doing at the moment. And that your days off are the days they're doing the filming." So yeah, righto. And then I remember saying to my then agent, "Oh dear, that means I'll never be the Doctor." And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Because I remember reading somewhere that they never cast the new Doctor Who's from actors who'd been in the series before." And my agent, my then agent, said, "Well, fat chance of that. They're not going to ask you to do Doctor Who, are they?" "Oh, thanks." So anyway, I accepted Arc of Infinity to play Maxil, the head of the Gallifreyan Guard. Got to shoot Peter Davison.
Your own chicken?
I had a chicken. Now, anyone here not seen Arc of Infinity? I suppose there must be a few. Well, I was playing this guard, and they gave me, because I was the head of the guard, I had this helmet with a huge feather on the top to denote that I was boss guard. And we filmed the first scene with me wearing a huge helmet, and then we filmed a series of scenes where I had to go in and out of a door, and the door was about 2 feet shorter than me and my helmet combined. So the director said, "Well, you better carry it with you." And so I had to take it off in shot, because otherwise, you know, where's his helmet gone in the other shot? And I had to carry this helmet around with me for the rest of the scenes. So by the time it was tucked under my arm, all you could see was the feathers. So it struck me that it looked like a chicken. So I called it Esmeralda. The chicken was called Esmeralda, and it made chicken noises. So while Peter Davison was acting, I was going. Now, looking back, that showed a lack of respect, and I freely admit that. I should have been more respectful of poor Peter playing the Doctor than standing beside him going. I do it all the time, but it irritated Peter a bit. But it made John Nathan Turner laugh, the producer, who said to me, "I'm going to call you Archie." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because this performance is the arch," because I was standing behind Peter when he was talking, going, you know. It was only because I thought my character was like that, but it was a bit upstagey, so he suggested that perhaps I shouldn't be sighing heavily whenever the Doctor spoke, because the programme was called Doctor Who, not Maxil the Guard. These were his very words.